Everyone, I thought I'd do a quick video on a little project that I am doing that my friend Bart got me sucked into. So this is just a little 3x5 case I'm using because it will hold these cards really nicely for me as I do them. But there is something called the hashtag 100-day project, where you choose a project to do every day for 100 days. And so I didn't want to do anything that was really complicated. I have a lot of other things to do. I have other painting work that I need to be doing and work and all of that stuff. So I didn't want to do anything complicated. I was going to have to do it for 100 days. But I did want to take part in it. And so I decided to do 100 mini landscapes. Now, I got this idea from the Mind of Watercolor. I will put a link to the video below where he was doing a bunch of smaller cards, and so he simply was doing easy washes and then kind of seeing where is the landscape in that wash. Now, I've taken it down to just also being a bit of a color play, and so in this project I'm only using 2 colors, and so I'm putting 2 colors on the paper. Obviously, I'm mindful that I am doing a landscape, so I do try to have sort of a landscape horizon and horizon line or something while as I'm putting the paint down. But pretty much trying to see what 2 colors are going to do together, and then what kind of landscape might I see out of that initial wash, and then kind of playing around with, but not overly much, but playing around with sort of highlighting parts that for me stand out as the landscape. So I've done let's see, this I need to go back and number these, so 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. And so I think today will be number 11. So I've just used 2 colors. So for example, this is Daniel Smith's Perylene Maroon, as well as M. Graham's Burnt Sienna. And so as I made the first initial wash, it to me looked very deserty, and so I kind of highlighted some of the desert plateaus in the distance and that kind of thing. Sort of highlighted that. These 2 actually are probably my least favorite. I do like the tree, and this main part of the tree evolved naturally, as well as did this sort of side mountain here. But this was with, I believe it was Indian Yellow and Core Pyro Orange. I have them written down on my Instagram. I need to write them probably on the back of the card. So I do like this. It's just very, very vibrant. This one I call my Drunken Tree. I actually really liked the wash, but I think that in highlighting the landscape, I over highlighted the Drunken Floating Tree, and so it just kind of makes me smile. But I'm trying not to go back and edit them. Like that's just one that's not going to be my favorite, but that's okay. I do love the colors that came together here. I do quite love this one. The night sky, sort of with a dark forest. I see. I love this one as well. These 2 colors went together really beautifully. I think this was Prussian blue and maybe a quinacridone color. Again, I need to write them on the backs. But I do quite like what this did, as well as this. So, and then these were obviously my first couple. I love the kind of little autumn landscape, the mountains that came out of this one. And I really actually quite like my first one as well. So again, I'm not taking any time on these. I'm just kind of playing with them. The paper I'm using, I didn't really want to use all of my arches. Oh, I didn't save it. I didn't save the lid. I didn't want to use my arches, but I did want cotton paper because it's just me. So I ended up getting a pack of the bee, as in the bee as in the bug, paper. Because I could get a big pack of actually enough to do 100 sheets, break and just cut them in fourths, and you're making them into these little cards so that I can do these. So I thought we would do one together. And see, I've kind of gone back and forth. Sometimes I'm taping things down. Sometimes I'm not taping things down. And these I don't particularly like the lines that sometimes comes, because I'm just trying to have it be a lot more free, but at the same time I do like the paper being somewhat laid down. So today, of course when you try to do it in the camera, today I'm going to try just taping the top and the bottom and seeing if that gives me enough stability with the paper, but maybe keeps the sides free to be more organic. So that's what I'm going to attempt to try. So what I've just been doing is picking out two colors that, okay, you know what, let's try those numbers, those two colors together. So for example, I think today I'm going to pick up, where are all my brushes? Oh, I think I left them over. Oh well, we'll use this for right now. Oh, I left this one very badly. I have a very bad habit. Let this be a lesson. I have a very bad habit of leaving my brushes in water and forgetting and having them stay there all night. And this is what happens. You know, the water goes up the barrel and just starts peeling away and making a mess. And this is not a super cheap brush either, so I probably, and I use it a lot, so I will probably end up replacing it because it annoys the crap out of me. But lesson learned, lesson learned. I think I'm going to use quinacridone gold. I have been using some salt and sometimes some gouache in the highlighting phase, but I think I'm going to use, where did I put my quinacridone gold in? The nature colors. There we go. So I have Cores, which is very vivid. I think I'm going to use Daniel Smith's quinacridone gold, which is right here. So I've just been getting the colors that I'm going to use and putting them, you know, down so that I have access to them, because I don't use any other colors except for, again, salt maybe and some white gouache sometimes. So this is a very beautiful, and especially Daniel Smith's is one of my favorites, but I gotta think about, I don't know if I just want to have a brown with it. Of course, you often do see a brown with it. It's coming up quite thick. Frothy, I don't know why it's being so frothy either. Let's see. I don't know. I think I'll do an Indian red with it, just because it's nearby, and I quite. Where is that? This way. It's 58. That Holbein Indian red looks interesting. So again, I'm going to have very earthy colors, but I'm going to mostly highlight the quinacridone gold. I think that's a color that almost could be done entirely by itself because it's so gorgeous. So let me see if I'm even just in the realm. Yeah. So I'm going to, I've been using just a squirt bottle to get started and just kind of get the initial. I can't always tell where it's sprayed. Just to get initial water down, and that way I'm not too much, you know, trying to control what it's going to do, although I do. This is just such a absolutely gorgeous color. I also find I have it, you know, because I'm spritzing it like that and then the paint is going where it wants, I don't tend to use the card all the way. So like I am cognizant that I'm trying to create some kind of a, but I usually don't see where it's going. I don't usually see where I try to do a little just slapping it in there. Because I don't usually see where it's going until it starts to dry. And then sometimes it starts to then pick up with, it's like, oh, okay, I see that over here. But then I try to do that kind of highlighting in the second phase. Like here, I see something happening. I do this something similar in oracle readings that I do with paint. And so I don't know. I see sort of a line forming with maybe a lake, like at sunset. So like right here, and then that being the reflection. So I'm just going to kind of highlight this line right here a little bit. And of course, as the paint is still moving, and I don't want it overly, but of course I can come back. So I do come back. So what I do is I do this initial wash. I'm just, you know, kind of, oops. Now see, then sometimes I go in and ruin it by playing with it too much or putting too much water. I tend to start with a lot of water because I do want it to flow and move to get that sort of natural movement of the paints. And some paints are more movie than others. So I have found that Daniel Smith moves beautifully. Holbein does not move much at all. That is because they don't, I don't know if it's that they don't put any in or they don't put much oxgall in, which is what allows paint to move. See, that side's already starting to dry, so I need to leave it alone. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this so I can see what I have. So this is the first wash then. I'm kind of seeing here, so then I start to look at this and say, okay, well, what do I see, right? What little mini landscape is magically coming alive for me here? And I still kind of see a reflective lake, even though I think it was a little bit lost. I should have left it alone. And that's often what I'm finding. It's one of the lessons that I'm learning here, is that I think very often I should stop while I'm ahead. So I see this is sort of the land line. And then we've got like a reflection going on here. So I'm just sort of dropping some paint in to highlight that, that's sort of the end of the land. And I will spray this once it dries a little bit, because I do like to keep a bit of a, again, organic nature to thing. I kind of feel like this is like a cliff. We've got this kind of, it's not a tree to me. I feel like it's almost like we've got a nook of a cliff, and this is just sort of a secret little grove here of some kind. So I'm just going to, so you can see how Holbein is very flat, and it allows you have to do a little more work to move it where you want, but it is also one of the beauties of it. Because it will kind of stay where you put it until you do whatever it is that you're going to do to move it. So I want to highlight, I use a lot of salts just in general. I love texture and layers, and so I want to highlight that this might be sort of ground cover or rock, and so I kind of want to highlight the fact so the salt will kind of make it a little more textury. But But there, I do like these drips. I do want things to still move a little bit. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a squirt so that things can move and not be, I'm not looking for concrete edges here, or strong edges and strong shapes. I really want those to sort of come out organically, even though in these processes I am, you know, helping them along after the first wash. This paper definitely, I mean, it's cotton and so it's nice, but I will say it's definitely not Arches. And, you know, I can tell the difference between the two of them. I do really prefer Arches paper. It's definitely a lesson I have learned. Paint just moves better. Paint just flows better. I just love it. Now I'm just kind of, this is a tiny landscape. I kind of feel like we have a little, but I only have these two colors to work with. So I'm going to kind of highlight that perhaps this is a tree over here. Highlight a bit of a trunk here. I also really like this little fan brush. Fan brushes are nice for just easily putting in some brush grasses. Although you often, when you're doing this, have to do this multiple times to really show up. So we do have that little bit of a tree right there. It should be a little bolder, I think, with this grass. Maybe come out a little bit here. But I also, what I've had a lot of fun with really is seeing what other people see. Now, originally I saw a large tree in this background, but it has kind of, as it's dried, it disappeared. And I quite liked that. I'm going to grab my other brushes here. One is a really long, here it is. I love this really long, it's a Velvet Touch liner brush. And I quite like this for highlighting. See, I saw a tree back here. But I definitely don't see it as much. And now that looks like a strange flower person. And, oops, I thought this was the fan brush. I just cleaned up my paint space only to come on here and make an absolute mess. So I'm just going to kind of get some leaves over here, but then I'm going to squirt it because I don't like anything to stay. I'll put some gold. Apparently I'm a big fan of fall colors. I have found myself tending to go there. Actually, now that I'm adding this, oh, I added a little too much. And that is the story of my mini painting lessons. Is I always get it to where I kind of like it. It's like going where I want, and then I go too far. It's the story of my life. But I kind of like it. I'm going to leave it alone. I think I'll add a little bit. There's a lot of trees in my, well, I mean, they're landscapes. Of course there's going to be trees, right? So now I'm just going to kind of add a little texture. Again, I'm all about, you know, getting different layers. I will say that the best paint for layers I've so far found has been the Sennelier. Which I'm not using today because I wanted to use this Quinacridone Gold. So I don't know what's going on here in this painting. Like this right here, that's interesting. I almost feel like it's a cliff too. Like it's coming off of a cliff and things are dropping down. And maybe there's a secret gold like chest under here, or a little teeny tiny flower of goodness just in this little crook of a space right here. A little piece of magic right there. But I think when it dries, it's not gonna really stand out. But we'll see. We'll see. That is the fun of this, is that you're not really sure what you're going to get. It's kind of the point. I just see different textures and kind of pull some of those textures out. But I'm not, you know, I feel like, no, I don't think I want to highlight that any further, because I think that I've also really liked, I'm putting these up every day on Instagram, and I've really liked to just see what do other people see. In fact, I've become hesitant to even say in the thing what I might see, because I really like seeing what other people are seeing in these little landscapes. It's kind of fun. Like the one purple one, which I saw, which I really love, this blues and purples, it's this beautiful mountains. Somebody saw the kind of a dragon head with sort of steam coming up, and I love that. Like that was really awesome. So I'm trying not to, again, the lesson so far, of course I have many more to go, but the lesson I have learned thus far in the hashtag 100 day project, hashtag 100 mini landscapes that I'm personally doing, I have learned that knowing when to quit and stop fiddling and don't mess things up is really key. Like right now, I think I should stop. I do want to, I like to splatter things. I like salt and I like to splatter things. So I'm going to dry this. Of course, this is always also where I found I'm ruining a couple of my shirts, because I am not the greatest at splattering. I tend to make a lot of a mess. And you can, if you get it quickly, you can lift up or at least lighten up if you hit a splatter somewhere you're not thrilled with or not quite liking how it's landed. And again, you could even lift it, although I'm not really trying to be that perfect with this, because like I could even, whoops, just kind of use that as part of a highlighting. I rub that in a little bit, and that will dry. Interesting, but I'm not, again, trying to be too precious about these. I'm trying to let them be what they are, but it's hard. It's hard. And I'm a queen of, I love washes. So I'm going to try to be a little more careful with the quinacridone. There we go. And there we have it. Day 11 out of 100 of mini landscapes. And so if you want to watch these, I'll be putting up every day, unfortunately for some, on my Instagram account, which is under, I'll put it in the description box below. So there we have it. I'm actually quite enjoying it, and I love that little tree, so it all works out.